Welcome back and welcome to another reading, Capricorn. This will be the general reading for those of you who have a Capricorn sun, a Capricorn moon, or a Capricorn rising. I hope you've been well. No rings today, just clean hands. My horoscope said that I should get a manicure, but it didn't really work out that way. A manicure just wasn't in the cards. Maybe this weekend. Thank you for being patient. I want to open the windows and let some air in here, but the area I live in, there's a couple bars not that far from here, and the people outside can be a bit loud sometimes. I just don't want any chatter in the background. Five of Wands and the High Priestess. It looks to me like unwanted opinions, unwanted influence, unwanted input. And I think that sometimes this is why you just keep things to yourself, because you know the moment that you say it out loud, people are going to judge you for it. They just, they're gonna look for something to take issue with, something to not agree with, something to hold against you. So it's better to just keep your opinions to yourself. By all means, have them. And in doing so, you create less of an environment for others to impose their opinions on you. We're talking about discretion. We're talking about living your life in peace, believing in what you believe in peace, and letting others believe whatever the fuck they want to believe. The concept is simple enough, but it gets messed up all the time. Are there some beliefs you have that you're revisiting? Maybe you think that they need some tweaking, they need some adjustment. And I want you to know that that's okay. It is all right for you to admit to yourself that what you want has changed. It's all right for you to no longer think about something the way you used to think about it, or have the same position. You know, there's no one holding you There's no one backing you into a corner and telling you that you can't change. So you should absolutely let yourself go through that process and let yourself do that if you are wanting to change for the better. If you're having a shift internally that your conscience is telling you is a shift that needs to happen, don't worry about how you're going to be perceived by others when you know that it's right. It can be lonely sometimes when you're going against the grain and swimming upstream. That unpopular opinion that you might be taking on right now may cost you some friendships or relationships that you thought were everything to you, or that you wouldn't be able to picture your life without. But worry not, because you will find new people, you will build more relationships that are built on that new mentality you have, that new perspective you have, built on that new hill that you're so willing to die on. Just takes bravery to emancipate yourself from mental slavery. None but ourselves can free our minds. Bob Marley said it best, and it's so true. It's so true. What is it that you've been wrestling with here that seems taboo to talk about, or that it burns to the touch? Three of Pentacles, Knight of Swords, and the Devil card. Yeah, I think you just don't want to have or hear the argument. And that's exactly what it feels like. Discussions seem far off and seem like they aren't a possibility. That it's difficult for you to come to an agreement. It's difficult for you to have an understanding, because everyone seems to think about is their perspective, and it has to do with their unwillingness to let go of that. And you're no stranger to being unshakable in your view of the world, and being unshakable where your principles are concerned. All of the Capricorns I have, oh my goodness. The Freudian slips are insane in this reading. I wonder if that's what I should call this, but all of the Capricorns that I have ever known, hold on, drop my pillow. Lumbar support is very important. All of the Capricorns that I have ever had the privilege to know, they are, there's a firmness there. And I think that we can say this confidently about you, that you are so deeply rooted and you're so willing to show others the way. You're so willing to broaden the horizons of other people to get them to see the value in being disciplined, to see the value in thinking things all the way through, to see the value in making sense, to see the value in being rational. And lately it just seems like rationality and logic is scarce. All hope is lost when we can't talk to each other. Sure, you can get by sweeping things under the rug and agreeing to disagree, but you're not fixing anything. You're just ignoring the problem and it stays broken. You're taking all of those issues and you're putting them off to the side. They don't disappear into thin air. They still exist. And I think when people try to distract you, they're like, look over there, and they try to make you focus less on things that you know are important, that you know need your attention, that you know you should be focusing on. It can feel sometimes like betrayal. Because to deviate from your plan, to deviate from the path, to go down some rabbit hole, that ends up leading to your destruction or the destruction of the lives of other people. Is heartbreaking. And you're so well-meaning as Capricorns, the sign as a whole. You're so well-meaning, and I think that some may think that you are detached. And I think that it's a misconception, because to know you and to be in your energy is to feel a kind of protection and guidance and mentorship that is not common. We'll talk about these more. Alright, so it's been a couple days since we did the first part, and I've had some time to let it all marinate. Let's talk about what's here. But first, we're gonna pull some oracles just to make sure that, well, not necessarily make sure, but my hope is that it adds to or gives you further confirmation that this is your reading. But I mean, looking at the Capricorn card right there, that's not really the only determining factor. So no, just because the Capricorn card is in the reading doesn't necessarily mean that it's your message. So, but I think that what we're talking about is am I saying? What am I trying to say? Whatever, let's just get these cards. Alright, so we got the month of June. You may be dealing with a Gemini or a Cancer. Cancer is here as well. Gaslighting could be a theme. New love. Aquarius. The number 3 may be important or significant. The number 1, 13 or 31 could be someone's age. I hope that there are no 13-year-olds watching this, but you may have a 13-year-old or the 13th of the month, as it pertains to a date, or the 31st of a month. Fear. West. Perhaps you live on the west side, or it's significant in some other way. The month of April, you may be dealing with an Aries or a Taurus. Or just that month in particular could be important. Alright. Capricorn. Yeah, you really could be dealing with a Taurus. I almost just called you Taurus. Capricorn. There's an old adage that comes to mind. Opinions are like assholes. Let me try that again. Opinions are like assholes. Everybody has one. And it's what comes to mind when I think about your reading and I look at these cards and I think about, what's going on in the world as well. And it just seems so appropriate. It's a little bit too explicit for me to name the video that, but that's just really what's coming through to me right now. Opinions are like assholes. And you may find yourself coming up against many strong opinions that other people have, and the actions that they're willing to take in support of those opinions, or because of those opinions, the impact that their opinions has on your life and on the lives of other people. And it's just the amount of damage that it can do can sometimes be irreparable. It almost seems like they think and feel the way they think and feel just because they can and because they want to. There's not much thought given to the consequences. Forget about consideration for other people and what they might be going through. And this is just not how you operate. It is not like you to have an opinion or to want to do something a certain way only because it'll benefit you. And maybe you don't get that kind of grace from a lot of the people that you deal with, or they don't see you this way. There's a lot they don't see because they can't see beyond their own perspective. But the opinions you have, I'm sorry, this is so hard to talk about. You can't make anybody think like you. There are some people that are just not going to get it. And you can try to explain your position to them, but that's really only worth it if they are capable of understanding a perspective that's different than theirs, if they're open to hearing about that. And to have that capability, to be open, to be receptive, would have to require them to be unselfish. And that's where a lot of ignorance lies. In my mind, it has a lot to do with selfishness. Contrary to what may be the popular opinion, it's not that hard to do the right thing. It's not that hard to choose right and to be on the right side of history and to not get to the top while fucking people over. It's really not that hard to do right by people. It's not that hard to do the right thing. And I think that where I feel like people, and I would even go out on a limb here and say that they do intentionally overcomplicate it, and they introduce all these complexities to the issue to make it seem like it's not as simple as good versus evil. It's not as simple as right versus wrong. And I think that this can sometimes be done to deflect accountability, to deflect ownership of an issue. If you make something seem like it's more complex than what it actually is, you can get away with not having a solution for it quickly. It's not right, but this is something that is happening intentionally or unintentionally, and I'm of the mindset that it happens intentionally more often than not. Because people are not dumb. People are not dumb, people are just selfish. And only want to think about the extent to which they'll be taken care of and the extent to which they will be looked out for and be safe. God forbid you consider and want that for someone else. You can forget about it if it's a stranger. So we're in this world that is divided between, the haves and the have-nots, and those who, haves and have-nots. Yeah, it's divided that way, and it's also divided into those who have the emotional depth to consider the feelings of other people and to consider how much of an impact their existence has on other people. You're not just living in existing in a vacuum. Whether you like it or not, you must share this world with other people. And there are some things that one must do to be a good citizen of this world. It's good for your humanity. Some of those things are patience, acceptance, consideration, compassion, empathy. We need much more of that in this world, and I think you have so much of it. So much of it that you give all of that to yourself, but you so willingly give it to other people, and it shows up in the advice you try to give, and it shows up in your life in the guidance you try to give when you try to show people the way, or you try to help them to understand what it means to be disciplined and what it means to have principles that you're not willing to negotiate and that you shouldn't negotiate. You may think that a topic might be taboo or too difficult to talk about, but it's not. Yes, there are those people who you just know based off of their personality and your history with them that there are some topics that will be intractable. You just be opening up a can of worms if you try to talk about it with that person, because they're set in their ways. And reason paired with ethics, as much as you would like to believe that that would be enough to get that person to understand, it's not even so much about getting them to think the same way that you do or believe in the same things that you do, but it's about getting them to understand why the way they're looking at it is imperfect. We're not in the business of telling people how to think, but we just want them to be able to be self-aware and, think properly, go about it properly. If you train yourself to be cognizant of the consequences your decisions have, and you do the research about a topic to fully understand what it is that you're actually formulating an opinion about, and that's what gets me too. Why are we so firm on the opinions we come up with when they're on topics that we don't even fully understand? That's something that should be taught in grade school. Nobody's allowed to have an opinion about anything unless you understand the topic that you're formulating the opinion about. Because these opinions are all fueled by feelings, and there's not enough research being done. And when we get to talking about research, then we're talking about, what sources can you trust? And this is where you need to be really careful when you're doing research. You have to be able to read with comprehension. You have to look at what you're taking in and, read it objectively, take your feelings out of it, and ask yourself, does this make sense? And cross-reference and use the research that you've done to substantiate the stance you're taking. But what's more convenient? What's more easy? It's, when you're listening to such and such at the barbershop or the salon, or, at the family cookout or the get-together, and, there's a sharing of ideas happening. and no one is being fact-checked. And then we use all of this input that we're getting to, and it has this effect on us if you don't have strong boundaries, and if you don't have any filters in place, and if you don't see the value in doing your own research and understanding and thinking for yourself. My people suffer for a lack of knowledge. There isn't any man under the sun who knows everything. There are some who may come off that way because they're well-read and are brilliant. We certainly won't discredit that or deny that. There's some who certainly appear that way, but even the most well-read person doesn't know everything. In fact, I would think a sign of intelligence of that well-read person is before they engage in a debate, they would do their research. Or when they are, in conversation with you, you can tell when you're speaking with someone intelligent because they will seek to understand. They'll ask probing questions. You may not necessarily be changing their mind or changing who they are, but there's a curiosity there to understand your perspective, and you're able to have this kind of conversation that is productive, and it's a useful dialogue because questions are being asked and we're trying to understand, and we're approaching it without our ego. So that's very much what this reading is about. Who are those people who you can engage in conversation with and have spirited debates with, and know that your perspective is going to be respected. And we already know that you respect them, even if you don't understand their perspective, even if you think they're wrong. You're not going to make them feel like an idiot about it, and you're not going to make them feel like shit about it. But it's just sad when they don't want to have that dialogue with you, or they're not open to other ways of thinking. They don't care about the lives of other people and how their decisions impact other people's lives. Their right to exist is what is most important. Fuck everybody else. And those are the ones that, I just want you to be careful with. Know where the line is. Understand where it's when it's futile. Know when it's time to go, and don't feel guilty about that. Some of you are meeting someone who seems like a good fit for you, a perfect match for you. Total package is the kind of energy that's here now. I'm looking at these 3 cards down here. Is there anything else that we need to know about this? And total package for you, I feel as though is someone who is equally as disciplined and principled, or is open to being led. Especially if it's a Virgo, or they have Virgo placements, but this is the mentality. So if you're dealing with someone who has strong Virgo placements, yes, this is you need a level head in your energy. You need practicality, someone who's going to be able to respond to and understand reason. And there is The thing about Virgos as well, and Sagittarius, they both kind of fit this description. It's just in different ways. You know, Sag is mutable fire, Virgo is mutable earth. So there's potential there for it's just the mind is quite beautiful between both of them in terms of their willingness to grasp concepts that are complex and also simple. You know, it's the simplest ones that are it's such a sad thing to say, but it's the simplest concepts that are oftentimes the most difficult for people to grasp. But you need someone who is going to be receptive. Oh my goodness, and they're emotionally intelligent. This is a blessing indeed. So if you've been waiting for someone like that, you know, I think that they're right around the corner. They're equally as devoted as you. They express their devotion in a different way. But this is someone who will be very loyal, very committed, all things that are very important to you. And isn't going to run away from the conversation and isn't going to, well, the fact of the matter is they'll be able to hold a conversation. They'll try. And you deserve someone who will try. For as much as you show up and as much as you give to it, you need to be in a connection where someone's going to do the same for you. I hope you found this helpful. I know it got a bit abstract there for a moment. I hope this makes sense. And I'll see you in the next one.